Good afternoon and welcome to another amazing episode of PEACEZONE with Peace Ambassadors on your favorite channel, KAFTAN TV Abuja. And as I always ask you, how are you doing today? I hope you're peaceful with yourself, others and the environment. Hope you're ensuring justice, security and development in your spaces. I'm Moses Abolade, your peace building facilitator and host. And just like I've been saying recently, this show needs your support for us to be able to make it sustainable and reach wider audience. And that is why we're calling for you to do advert. And you can call us through the lines showing on your screen, which is +234 81 09 66 1910. Or you can also reach out via mail, ppepnet@gmail.com or info@thepepnet.org. Today I'm joined by a conflict technical advisor and peace building professional. Last week he ought to be here, but he was on a peace building journey, and we are glad to have him physically here in the studio. And this is just to continue the trend of the series on conflict situation, analyzing conflict situation in northern Nigeria, for us to have a clearer perspective, a professional angle to it, to see to what has happened so far. And he was also in that particular place last week, and it's good to have him here. I will just introduce him, and I would like to put you on a suspense in a bit. Mr. Godwin Okoko, who will be joining me today, is a technical advisor, just like I mentioned, who has worked with different peace building organizations, and he has been able to create great awareness around conflict situations, analyzing them, creating bridges among different parties to ensure that there is a great resolution, or a peaceful resolution at the end of the day. It's good to have you, Mr. Godwin.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, viewers. Sincere apologies for missing out last week.
Yeah, we really miss you.
My mind was here. Unfortunately, I just couldn't. It was beyond my control.
Yeah, so glad you are here. And like I also said, you were in Jos, so I'll be starting from there. How was your trip?
It was fine. Jos is always home for me, and it's one of those communities that I worked over the years. I spent like 10 years, if not more, working in various communities within that environment, focused around the kind of work that we do: conflict management, conflict prevention, and general peace building. Most importantly, working with the target communities to see how we can be able to transform the situation. So for now, since your question is high, I will tell you, just as peaceful.
Glad to hear that. So let's go. I'll give a background, then we'll come fully into those questions. There are several questions there prepared to just go into knowing the root causes of the conflict situation that Jos have been experiencing. In a recent report by the Vanguard, the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, warned against reprisal attacks over the continued killing in Mangu and Riyom local government areas of Plateau State, which happened on Sunday, that was 15th May. According to him, about 130 persons have been killed in the past week, and 1,000 buildings burnt, and 22 villages affected. Now, Plateau State, as you said, we thank God that by your statement, it is a home of peace and tourism, as we all know it to be. But recent cases have not shown the same, based on what we have been hearing. So we'd like to know what's the background like for this crisis we have had in. And when I say background, I'm talking about the root causes of the violent situation in Jos over time.
Sometimes I always say to people, when we pass the bridge, I don't really want to revisit it again, because the protracted violent conflict experience in Plateau State, specifically from 2001, after the restoration of democratic practice in Nigeria in 1999, of course, there are a lot of issues that people could tie to as one or two or three or four of the reasons, but then we all know what are some of the core issues that have led to breaking down of right relationship, polarizations of communities, settlements across religion and ethnic patterns, specifically within Jos Metropolis and specifically focused around Jos North, and all that, of course. And you know that over the years, a lot of shady politicians and those who didn't mean well for the state also took advantage of those faulty lines, of course, with the intention of also mobilizing people across each other, opposite each other, with the intention also to achieve some selfish aim. But by and large, and then we must give credit to state and non-state actors around concerted efforts were put in place to see the right relationship are restored. And today the state, of course, is experiencing, some people say relative peace, some will call it graveyard peace, whatever it is. For those of us who have been in the field, I say peace is peace. People at least are relating, engaging themselves, and all that, in spite of even the settlement patterns, which are also the legacies of the protracted violence conflict. The state at the moment is experiencing some social interactions among people. And this is something we certainly can celebrate. Of course, previous government did a lot of efforts and all that. And time have gone, time have passed. And we must also give credit to the outgoing, the former governor, the administration of Simon Bakola alone. Also, he did quite a lot in trying to ensure that the effort of his predecessors also were also sustained around the peace effort, by also establishing one of the first dedicated government entity, which is now the PLATEAU Peace Building Agency. That also became as a hub, a government institution dedicated to conflict prevention and peace building. We never had any at the sub-national level. Of course, we have the IPCR at the national level, and they did quite a lot. And the efforts in the last 8 years around ensuring that there are peace in the communities are not the effort of any state institutions alone, but also a collective effort of both state and non-state actors. And sincerely, the credit will also go to those non-state actors around the non-governmental organizations at the international level and at the domestic level.
Thank you very much. And just like you said, there's a particular thing you mentioned as regards settlement, the settlement patterns, and that the just Plateau State is known for, and that has also helped or have contributed in one way or the other. I would like us to delve into that for our viewers to be able to be aware of some of the causes of the violent conflict, either between communities or farmer clashes that has happened among the communities so far.
Yeah, of course. You know that democracy, as nascent as it was in 1999, also comes with her own challenges. And somehow along the line also, because people have lived over time, modernization and development have taken place. And also because we also all came from different backgrounds in terms of our experiences, in terms of our knowledge, and in terms of understanding of each other. Certainly there are bounds to be conflict between us, and the potentials to ensure that this conflict do not escalate beyond the expected, you understand, it remains on how we're able to manage it. And of course, people didn't have much of those skills and those understanding. And of course, like I said, some people took advantage of weaknesses of individuals and communities and to create divisions among people. Yes, communities were polarized, not that they were deliberate actions, but then that also people moved from one area to another area as a result of feeling of safety. You understand? Some also got displaced because homes and houses, properties, livelihoods were also destroyed. And as they moved, and you see situations where landlord became tenants, tenant also became landlord in some cases. Power, but nevertheless, you know, all those things were these are part, and also these are the aftermath of violent conflict and the negative effects of the conflict. But then gradually efforts were being put in place through processes that strengthen relationship, through those conversations that were sincere and honest at some level. And of course, like you know, in the point of all those things, there are always those shadows, there are always those individuals, those groups that are always out there to become like, you know, a clog in the wheel of progress, trying to see how they can reverse back the modest gains that have been achieved. And those ones are the levels that you have to deal with them. One of the core issues around that, of course, at the very beginning, we have the issues of indigenous settlers issues. We have issues of land resource conflicts and several other things. But other things around religion people talked about. Everybody will have his own side of the story, and everybody will have his own reasons to say this is based on their own perceptions around it. But I can tell you that religion has always been more like a tool for mobilization. The conflict was just given religious coloration. You know, and then also people begin to say, okay, why can't you call it religion? Because sometimes once relationships are broken, people begin to go down to bomb worship centers, you know, and so this is why people also give it the kind of that kind of coloration. And of course, you also have to also see it from their point of view. But by and large, I think that the relationship has greatly improved. While we're dealing with the conflict within the cosmopolitan city that is also made of different Nigerians, then you also had the ugly issues that came out of of the farmer-harder conflict. You know, I said, of course, pastoralists and sedentary farmers. And this didn't help also because concerted efforts were also put at the very beginning. But then we see the role played by non-governmental organizations at the international and the local levels. We also saw rules played by security agencies also to deal with criminals, because those issues started as a result of cattle rustling, crop destructions, and several other issues and all along that. And those didn't help, or the reconciliation processes that were ongoing. And part of the minuses that made the crisis to linger on were also the failure of actors at different levels at some point to strengthen the inclusions of women and young people in the reconciliation process.
I think that's even where I was planning to get into, looking at what's the impact like on children, on women, on different stakeholders. And I know because you have access to people on field, what is it like vividly on how it impacted those people?
First, I will ask you a question, the ambassador, that the conflict lasted for almost 2 decades, which is about 20 years. So tell me, a child that was born between 2001, from September, down to the year, let's say 2016, 2017, what does he know about the city? Are you getting
That's really complicated for such people.
You get it. And then there are issues of trauma that are not addressed. And one of the key things about trauma, if not addressed, is transferred. There are issues of justice. And I've said it to friends alike. I said, don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Justice beget peace. And impunity sustain violence. And over the years, through this long period of time that we talked about, one of the things that sustained the violence conflict, not just in Plateau, but also other parts of the northern Nigeria, are issues of impunity. People just do things and I can get away with it, nothing happens. And like the law does not exist. And sad enough also that there are security agencies mandated to restore law and order within those locality, to protect lives and properties. And they are there and the people do, and then there are cases you hear people have been apprehended. But how and what happened in terms of following it to logical conclusion, in terms of justice being served,
for those
it was a minus, yes. And also efforts by non-governmental organizations to bring in the restorative justice kind of system, so that people, at least at the end of the day, that if I have lost a loved one, even if the justice cannot be served through the legal system, let it be served through a sense of wholeness for me. That as a person also, that this period of time, I don't continue to grow with hatred for the other person. Those were also some aspect of minors. And like I said to you, one of the key things that was sad enough was the issues around trauma.
Okay.
People were traumatized. When you talk about children, I was seeing
the psychosocial aspect of it.
It is quite very sad. Have we forgotten about the loss of livelihoods? What happened? And what efforts were done? A lot of things around some little support. Did they all, at the end of the day, add up to the losses, or did they increase also the welfare or the well-being of the person? Those were some of the challenges that we faced. But like I said to you in the course of this conversation, that one of the minors and one of the things that delayed from my own perspective in terms of the reconciliation processes was the deep failure by the actors at all levels to deliberately involve women and youth in the reconciliation processes. And one thing that sounds clearly about the woman is, this is key, is that the woman has some unique characteristics that will have also influenced the process of reconciliation positively. One, they can serve as mothers, so it means they can influence their children. They can serve as wives, they can influence their husbands, they can serve as sisters, they can influence their brothers or sisters. They can also serve as daughters, they can influence their parents. But there was a failure, a weakness to involve them. And also these are tied to issues of culture and religion in some of the contexts we find ourselves. And then the youth who are also alleged to have been a perpetrator of most of those violent conflict. And then you're making decisions about people that you feel are key actors. And one of the key things we say at the international development sector and the local sector as well is that make no decision about me without me.
Yeah.
And so when you're not there, you get it. It's something that you should keep on following.
I even think, thank you for the direction you took this, because there's also been a call for the actual implementation of UNSCR 1325 that has to do with women and other, even the one on the continent, to ensure that women are well involved in decision-making process. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue these conversations as it affects conflict situation in Plateau State. Thank you very much. Stay glued. Welcome back. It's Peace Zone, as you know it. We have been having a discussion on conflict crisis or conflict situation in northern Nigeria. It's been a great series we've been doing. We've done that of southern Kaduna. We've also looked at other places, and we are currently looking at the years Plateau has been experiencing rising number of conflict, which has been worrisome. I still have Mr. Godwin, Okoko. I don't know if that's the way it's pronounced.
Yeah.
Okoko, okay.
That means very great. It's a great Idoma name.
Oh, that's lovely. So I've been with him, and we'll be discussing, we'll continue that conversation. He has explained a lot around what the root causes are and the impact, so we'll continue from that. But let me give another background here. The governor-elect of Plateau State, Charles Muvwang, has said that the relationship crisis between EVA and the indigenes, who have predominantly farmers, has been blown out of context, and that the trend is taking its toll on the peace of the state. What did he mean by the conflict has been blown out of context? I don't know if you either saw that, or if you just want to create a different context to explain what he meant by that.
I will not want to go into trying to explain his statements.
Okay.
But to say that from my perspective, that sometimes when you think that you have attained the position you want in terms of a situation, you think that everything has been resolved, and then you see that the hands of the clock is being reversed back. And I can tell you that the previous administration before his, that of Barrister Sam Bakulalo, like I told you at the very beginning of this conversation, that they did a lot of efforts around strengthening peace architecture of the state. And that also one of those things where the creation of the Plateau Peace Building Agency. And the Peace Building Agency didn't stop at that. They also set up some monthly coordination and interactions at the local government levels, where key actors from various local governments meet to discuss and to deliberate and have conversations around emerging conflict issues within their communities with the intentions of providing those situations. That has helped in building relationship, because you see, one of the things that I've told you, this conflict lasted over 2 decades.
2 decades, yeah.
And because of that, relationships were broken. You know, issues of trust and confidence buildings are there. You understand? Issues of polarization is still there in some cases. And these are the legacies of the conflict. And education-wise, you know, the state is also going to be backward, because once it happens, there are no curfews, or even there are no curfews, children are scared of going to school. Even if the children are not scared of going to school, teachers are scared of going to those unsafe zones. Health sector also, almost everyone survived. But not to say that they were not effort. They were effort. There were committees set up at various levels. Today you hear Basa local government is peaceful. There were concrete effort put together by the Peace Building Agency leading the process, other international organizations and local ones providing support, which led to the signing of a commitment to peace agreement between the pastoralists and the farmers on ceasefires and various means of going about strengthening their relationship. And at various local communities, those kind of community peace building structures were in place. I know a lot of organizations.
Sorry for cutting you. Do you think those structures, do you think they were enough? Do you think that's the best we could have in intervening in such conflict situation?
Yeah, because one of the key things about the Plateau conflict of modern times that I tell a lot of people is that we must separate criminality from conflict.
Conflict, yes.
Conflict is when two parties are having, you know, at the position, the state of incompatible goals.
Yes, needs and all that.
You understand? But when we're talking about criminality, criminality should be dealt as criminality. When people go to attacks innocent communities, when people go to attack people that are sleeping in their homes at night, that's criminality. And that is the responsibility of the security agencies. The question I was hoping that probably you could be asking is that what is leading to those sustained attacks without form of prevention, especially when we have mandated security agencies like Operation Safe Haven that have been there over the years, or when we have also the Nigerian police, where we have civil defense, but then we have special task force known as Operation Safe Haven. What have you been doing? Is it that they're not working? No, they've been doing a lot of great work, but then proactiveness is key. there were early warning signs. You saw from the virus media and the counter rejoiners, also the Mark Band spoke and several other groups spoke too. There were early warning signs, and some of the attacks, like Imongo they talked about, took place for like 3 days. To sustain attacks.
Yeah.
What were they doing?
From that 21st to...
What security this is doing?
I think it's like 3 days.
You know, we need to begin to hold people accountable in this country.
So
are you getting from what I'm saying is this, for me, is that the early response is one of the major challenges that is also allowing this violence to prevail in some communities. Once there are early, I'm expecting that the response will be swift. And beyond that also, that impunity where people are arrested in the acts and they are proven before the law to have committed the crime, they should be, the judgment should be served as expected, and this will serve as deterrence for others. But then, in the whole years of the conflict, how many people have been prosecuted to logical conclusions?
And funnily, this is not just peculiar to cases in PLATEAU State.
No, general states of the country.
So let's look at it broadly now. What do you think is the best approach to tackling this menace of people perpetrating violence or perpetrating criminality, as you put it, and they just go like that and the cycle of violence continue?
And that's why I told you that earlier, that impunity sustains violence anywhere. And impunity also leads to lawlessness. And so as long as people are caught in the act breaking the law, whatever are the measures put in place by the law to deal with such individuals, groups, should be put in place so that nobody wakes up and feels that Nigeria is a country you can do anything and go away with it. The law must begin to take its course, and I'm hoping that the new administration of President Abolade Tinubu will do much in that regards. Once you begin to deal with this aspect of criminality, I am telling you, you will see that some of those issues around the conflict that we talk about are things that brothers and sisters can sit down together, irrespective of the differences of their religion or ethnicity, and resolve them. Over the years, long before now, there are those kind of concerns around the farmer harder issues too. Sincerely, this is what I tell people. Have they not been farmers long before now? Have they not been leaders?
There has been ways they are stipulated.
You know, the local mechanisms of resolving those issues. We need also to create stronger rule for the traditional institutions to play effective role in transforming those local conflicts within their localities. And this is very key. But as long as things begin to go, also, I think that the media has a role to play. And this way, most of you that are professional in this field can come in. We will also begin to be careful to begin to give some terminologies to issues. When there are attacks, we shouldn't say there are conflicts in PLATEAU. There are criminal attacks by individuals. If you know them, you mention them. If you don't know them, leave it like that. So you don't also give it a name and also call the white person a black person at the end of the day. So you must also be careful. Sensational reportage are some of the things that we need to deal, because in the media profession also there are some individuals that are not skilled and expert in it, and some of their reportage has the potential to escalate the conflict rather than de-escalate. So in situation reports in such a way that your reportage should be aimed at strengthening reconciliation, building relationships, rather than breaking bridges of
I think all those two, that's the reason why we need a much interpolation between different agencies, especially from this now. CSD is important, conflict sensitivity development of different stakeholders. And I just want to say that based on all this now, what can you see as recommendations to victims affected already, or perpetrators of this violence, and possibly voices that are trying their best to intervene in such crisis?
Most sincerely, I said it in several forums, and unfortunately I almost skipped away that. Also, like I always want to say it, I truly empathize with everyone that I've lost. I sympathize with everyone that have lost lives, and all those that also have been affected by the recent attacks. Unfortunately, it's painful, it's sad. And then if you have to go through the history of PLATEAU State, the conflict, who are you going to compensate? Who are you not going to compensate? Everybody is a victim. Everybody has suffered this greatly in one way or the other. You have gone through different pains. I lived in Jos with my family. There are nights you don't sleep. And there is the wondering in your mind whether your child will also grow up and understand that this world that we come from, it is made of people from different backgrounds in terms of religion, in terms of ethnicity. See, this country, you want to get things right, then my brother, put away ethnicity and religion out of it. We are good people to go. When you put away religion out, put away ethnicity out, and then deal with impunity, this country will become a role model for others to follow.
I think I love that that aspect of.
So and so my recommendation to anybody that wants to go to work on Plateau State: one, local solution to local problems.
Local solutions to local problems.
Strengthen community local structures on one side. Strengthen, create platform, enabling platform, peaceful platform for people that have differences to sit down together and have sincere conversations. And then they can come out with actionable points on how to address whatever are their differences. We're seeing it working in Basa local government. We're seeing it working in Ganawari, in Riom local government, where people from both sides are sitting down to have a conversation.
And
we're seeing it even in Mangu. We never had any issues around between the pastoralists and the farmers.
Well, so I think possibly we might have to have another session for this, because I know there is so much to talk about, and I believe that if I call you again,
sure, I'm always available. This is why
I'll be glad. And even a lot of people have reached out to me personally. They want to speak to this matter, but we're sorry the time is so short for us to discuss this. But however, you can also reach out. You can send a mail sharing what you think about the conflict situation or the criminality in Plateau. Thank God for that, those terminology corrections. So you can also reach out via the mail I've shared earlier, I've talked about earlier. So special thanks to our guest, Godwin Bello, who joined me in the studio live for the first time, and we hope that we have him again. I'm sure he will be joining us just like he said. So I want to say special thanks to KAFTAN TV management team. I want to say special thanks to PepNet management team, and I want to say for everybody that is on feed, they're doing something good for peace, for humanity. I want to say kudos to you. Keep doing what you're doing, and surely we have a peaceful society. Join me again next week as we have another interesting episode of PEACEZONE on KAFTAN TV.